Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. Now that we know when the NBA draft will be in October, once the shortened season is over with, some Wildcats are going to be getting prepared to hear their names. Some probably won't. To get some more insight on what the draft will look like for those players, we want to welcome in KSR's Jack Pilgrim. Thanks for joining us again, Jack.
Thanks for having me.
So the consensus is, if I'm looking at mock drafts, Tyrese Maxey is going to be a first-round pick somewhere, either later in the lottery maybe, or towards the middle of the first round. I don't see any other Wildcats projected to be a first-round pick, and I can't find E.J. Montgomery on any list.
Tyrese Maxey, I think the general consensus right now is that he's anywhere from number 10, number 9, number 10, all the way down to about 15. I'd heard during Emmanuel Quickley's draft decision that he was hearing some potentially late first round, that last couple picks, or the first 10 or so picks in the second round. So that's the only other guy to really watch out for in that first round. But from there, we've seen anything from, 35 to 55 for Ashton Hagans, Nick Richards potentially being 50 to undrafted. And then there are a couple guys that came out and said EJ Montgomery isn't even sniffing the top 100 prospects. So I don't think there's any reason to even consider him as a potential draft prospect, because I think his best route is going to definitely be as an undrafted free agent.
And also then there's the G League, and we hear like some of these really good sounding salaries for a couple of like the high school guys that are going straight to the G League. But EJ wouldn't likely be looking at one of those higher salary ranges for the G League if he is an undrafted free agent, right?
I don't know if he would fit under that umbrella of, I think they're looking for the high profile high school kids that they can kind of groom and the high profile, the Jalen Greens of the world. They had interest in Cade Cunningham, the top 5 level prospects in the nation. They want those guys for branding purposes. And, EJ Montgomery being at Kentucky developed a little brand for himself, but not the level of branding that you'd expect from a Cade Cunningham or a Jalen Green, somebody of that nature.
While you mentioned his name, I got to ask you about Cade Cunningham, because Oklahoma State had penalties handed down. They will not be able to participate in the NCAA tournament next year. What are the chances that Cade Cunningham ends up in Lexington?
I think there are several steps that we have to even account for before we even consider whether or not he can come to Kentucky. I think you'd have to request to get his letter of intent pulled at Oklahoma State. So we'd have to do that first. Then he'd have to decide whether am I going to go the professional route? Am I going to, sign a G League deal like some of these other guys? Or am I going to explore the college route? So I think we're like 2 or 3 steps away from even entertaining that possibility. And I think, talking to some guys at UK, I think that's where they are. They're like, we're not even going to entertain this as a legitimate possibility until that day comes. I wouldn't consider it likely at all right now. I think there's just so many moving parts to it before we can even consider it as a legitimate possibility. But that's a guy that you definitely want to come knocking on your door one day, for sure.
The NBA is in talks, working through a potential draft combine of sorts in August in Orlando. I would assume that would be by invite only. And again, I don't know that Nick Richards and EJ make that list.
Nick is the guy to watch out for because, he has a lot. He is on that fringe of guys that the NBA draft people, after doing all these interviews and all that, they might want to get their hands on him. He's a guy that they might want to say, okay, can he shoot out to the 3-point line? What are some of the things that we maybe didn't see in his time at Kentucky that maybe we could unlock at the professional rank? So that's a guy that you would watch out for. And shoot, EJ, I mean, he blew guys away with his workouts last draft process. I think last year he told reporters when he announced that he was coming back that he had some late first round interest. They said, we're really interested in you, but we want to see a little bit more out of you. So maybe those teams that were interested in the past vouch for him and say, hey, we want you to come in for this combine. Nick, definitely more likely. But again, EJ, I think he's just so far off that fringe that I just don't know where he would fall right now.
Well, a lot of these guys need to get their games shown to the guys making the draft decisions. So let's hope they can do that. Jack Pilgrim of KSR, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, more Hey Kentucky right after this.